Hi, this is Dennis with Second Chance Tackle, and today I have the pleasure of working on another Newell reel. This is the Newell P454T. It's a wide frame. It's one of the bigger reels that they make, and this one belongs to a charter boat captain that I work with, and he said it's been a while since it's been tuned up. Can I do that for him? And of course, that's it. And I figured while I would do that, I would do a little video here along the way to kind of show you why these reels have the reputation that they do, why it's deserved, and well, why folks seek these out all these years later. So Newell is a California-based fishing reel manufacturer, but he didn't start in fishing reels, and that wasn't even his primary business. His primary business, he was a petrochemical engineer and understood materials and the like. And he was always searching for something that was going to be durable and lasting, and he certainly created it with the Newell fishing reels. These are, you're going to find out if you're not familiar with the reel, these are pretty indestructible, and all materials used in them are pretty much corrosion resistant or free, and top quality all around. So the folks that built these to last, and they're lasting long since Newell stopped making the reels. Of course, Newell passed away, so he wasn't making them any longer. The company continued on for a little while. I understand somebody's still assembling Newell reels from the parts that were left over, but the actual reels themselves are long since been discontinued. Well, you can see, even though you keep the reels clean, there's going to be times when things like salt water and that get underneath these things, make them kind of hard and sticky, and we'll see if we can't get that out. If you can't get that out that way, one of the best ways to do is to back these off. This drag has been over tightened. Just use your star adjuster and maybe a little shot of penetrating oil here to just kind of get rid of some of the salt buildup there, and just walk the star adjuster up by reversing it, and you will get that handle off eventually. It's better than trying to rock it around, trying to pry it, or anything to that effect. There's a little washer between the star adjuster and the handle to prevent it from being backed off terribly, but that's when the nut is on, and we've already removed that nut, so that shouldn't be a problem. We also have this little washer up top. We've cleared that now. When I take my pieces and parts off, they go in the parts tray. I use a fast food container for that. At least that's what I'm using today. I've used all kinds of things, whatever's convenient. That one's convenient. As I mentioned, if you just keep backing it off, it will do that. We can see that there is some saltwater corrosion onto the finish on the handle here. And that's a plastic coat of some description. I'm just going to use the penetrating oil again here to kind of just dissolve what there is, and we'll put that into the box as well. Good place to tell you to take pictures. You're going to notice that there's a bottom washer that was similar to the one up top. Then there's this bell washer, and they all go on top of your star adjuster. If you take the pictures, that'll help you when you go to reinstall the reel. Well, you may have a question looking into your parts tray about what is what, and if you do have that question, those pictures are going to help you to get it back to the way it was before you took it apart. Well, sometimes those reels have come apart before, and maybe you're putting it back the wrong way anyway, because the person that serviced the reel prior didn't assemble it correctly. In that case, if you have a question, you go to the schematics for the reel, and that'll show you the way that they came out of the factory. Those schematics are burst diagrams or pictures of the pieces and parts in the order and the sub-assemblies that they come through on. I'm going to use the penetrating oil and just a little squirt on each one of these screws, just because I've seen what's happening here is that there's some salt buildup inside the reel. The reel was a little noisy. I'm not sure if it's bearings or not. We'll check that out in a while. It's probably the only thing that I ever find that are issues with Newell reels is that the consumables go, That would be the drag washers and the bearings. The rest of it is mostly, as you'll find out, is stainless steel, and it's graphite. So 2 highly resistant types of materials that, well, Carl built into his products. Okay, just needed to change screwdrivers here because we've got some of these screws that just being tough, and I've noticed that the slots on these are butterflied. So do your best, see what you can do here to get them out. And just take your time. I've been spraying with some penetrating oil intermittently, letting it seep down through the little channels, the threads, so that it can come out nice and easily. But whatever you do, don't rush it. If you rush it, you risk snapping these off. Well, if you like these kinds of videos, if you like to understand a little bit about the reels themselves, and more importantly, how to service them, how to keep them going, then I suggest that you subscribe to my channel. And if you do subscribe to my channel, please use the notification button. That'll let you know when I'm posting a video, and you can make a decision as to whether that's a video that you want to see. I work on all kinds of fishing reels. All the side plate screws are the same, and sometimes, well, I understand, sometimes you don't want to learn more about a saltwater reel, for example. You may have more of an interest in a freshwater reel, and that's okay too. Alright, let's just, these seem to be cemented in pretty good here. There we go. Got that off. And we can see it's been a while since this reel's serviced. It's got a lot of dirt and debris in there. We'll try to clean that out as best we can. First thing I'll do, I'll start with just taking a paper towel and wiping off the surface. The other thing you're going to notice is it's all stainless steel. Stainless steel is not going to rust, and that's one of the things that all kind of made Newell's reels pretty famous. What did rust apparently is the spurring in the back case here, so we're going to try and get that out and see if we can't replace that. I'm going to go look for a bearing. What I meant to say was a bearing hook. I have just a hook here. It comes in one of these Harbor Freight multi-packs. You're going to notice that tip is not the way it is, but it works for me. I bent it that way so I could get bearings out. And what I do is I just kind of fish it in there and then pull. Well, we almost got it. There we go. And you can see that this is pretty much a rusted, worn out bearing, and we're going to go replace that as part of the service. While I have that side open, what we'll do is we'll just use a little bit of that penetrating oil as a degreaser. We'll come in, clean up the mess in aisle 7, if you will, and see if we can't get this one repositioned with the new bearing. And I wonder if the other side is just as bad. If it is, we'll do the same thing over there. Okay, I just want to grab a small screwdriver here. There's a little bit of stuff behind the scenes here in that bearing. It's basically just the adjuster shield in the back there. And now just need to get my bearings. I've previously ordered bearings for Newell. Didn't realize this one was going to need it. I have another project that came in needing them, and that's your replacement bearing. One of the things is always good, even though they tell you it's the replacement bearing, check it. Put it on the spool. Make sure that it sits on the spool properly before you do too much. And then you can just seat it in the case like that. It's not held in very tight. Sometimes it'll actually come out on the spool. That's okay too. Alright, that's a junk bearing that's going to go in the trash, so you wouldn't make any mistake about reinstalling that one, that's for sure, but sometimes you just don't know with the used parts that you remove, so make it a good habit to get them off your bench in a hurry. Okay, we've got to wind this up and down. I'm going to use a rubber band here. I just want to get the control of the line on the spool. These things tend to unwrap and get stuck in the cases. Make sure when you're cleaning out these spools that the shoulders in this little inset here on the spool are not filled with dirt and debris. A lot of times what you'll find is you overlook that, and then your spool is not merging with the pinion gear, and you can't understand why. And well, the why is that it got stuck with some junk, and that caused the problem. Alright, this is your bridge, stainless steel bridge, 4 bridge screws. These look to be in better condition than those side plate screws were. So we're going to go ahead and pull these. Just loosening up all of them, make sure I don't have to do anything before I remove them all. Now the Newell system has the anti-reverse dog on the bridge, so you don't need to worry terribly about the setup or spring flying off of it. And also on the Newell system you have the yoke and the jack are also on the bridge. It's a kind of a one-step system. Nothing is on the side plate here, and so as you see when we remove this, that well, it's just got a bunch of old dirty greases and the like, and that can be cleaned up pretty easily. So we're going to take the screws out of the side plates so we don't lose them. Just like we did on the other side, we're going to make sure that they are all the same size. They're not. The 2 long ones go on the bottom, the 2 short ones go on top. We'll find a convenient corner for those in the parts tray. And then, well, we'll deal with this side plate. First thing we want to do is clean off the old greases and the like. Again, I'm going to use the penetrating oil as a degreaser. Looks like we want to replace that bearing as well. There's no sense when you're doing this to run away from the bearings. Let's see if we can't grab that and get that out of there as well. That guy came out nice and easy. It's on my floor, but that's a good place for it because, well, I don't want to put it back in the reel. As I mentioned, get them out of there so that you don't confuse them. I'll just go ahead and grab another bearing for that. And we'll have this reel purring by the time we get done with it. I got these replacement bearings for those of you that are interested. I got them on an eBay store. The eBay store is called HBR Bearings, HBR. They're out of Miami, Florida. They're an excellent supplier and eBay seller. If you need bearings for reels, get in touch with Pedro, and I'll let you ask him if he has the one that you need. And if he does, well, go ahead and use them because they are good folks to deal with. Alright, there's a lot of dirt and debris on this case here. So one of the things I'm going to do is I'm having a little bit of trouble getting the gear sleeve off. That means dried grease inside. I'm going to put the star adjuster on to give me some additional leverage to pull this off. Just keep pulling it. Oh boy, this is tight. I grab the flat side. I don't want to hit the screws. There we go. And you can see what's causing that. All of this old dried grease on here is why that is not spinning freely. There's some surface issues here. I'm going to use steel wool. I don't normally go to that extreme, but we got to get all that old dried grease off of this one. And I'm thinking I probably can even shave some of that off with a knife. Yeah, that's why this thing has been running so poorly. You can see it flaking off here. So we've got 2 issues here. Even though they built these reels to be pretty indestructible, well, lack of service on this one has caused this to kind of dry up the greases. and cause some issues with the performance itself, because that dried grease is clogging the shaft. Let's go ahead and use the penetrating oil to clean the inside. If you're really concerned, you could run a little bit of a file through there. I'm just trying to find a circular file here. I don't see one on my table. That doesn't mean it isn't here, it just means I don't see it. So there it is. You can run the file up and down. It's a little coarse. Don't file anything, but just try and knock the dirt out of it. And that'll give us behind now, because behind is that same dried grease and junk that's causing the issues. So we're going to spray that down. We're going to take our time. We want to take this dried stack and put that over in the piece. Take that star adjuster, put that in the parts tray. And now I'm going to just use a screwdriver to kind of wipe that off. And again, this is stainless now, so that dirt and debris isn't going to have anything to really hold on to here. And I'm just going to get that kind of started cleaning. And now what I want to do is remove the yoke and the pinion gear. There's two E-clips that are holding those on. Usually hand strength will enable you to knock these out. You can see it here. That's one of them. Underneath that is a spring. Don't lose either. Put those in the parts tray. Come over to the other side, do the same thing. See if you just can't get it out with your hands. And I always like to protect the back of that, because it is a spring-loaded device, and well, you can shoot that E-clip, and then you're going to have trouble finding it. This is the assembly for the yoke. Pinion gear fell out, and we're going to do the same treatment here. Spray all of that down, and continue with your cleaning. While I'm doing that, if you have any questions on this reel or any reel, if you maybe you're working on one and you're stuck, maybe you just want to know a little bit more about the fishing reel itself, maybe the history of the reel, maybe you want to know how it's used, who takes it fishing where, and so on, then if you leave those questions in the comments section, I will try to answer those for you. And you can see how nicely that just cleans up just from a little bit of effort and some penetrating oil. This is a spring-loaded anti-reverse dog here. Just make sure that you've got it cleaned as well. If you wanted to do the last piece here, if you wanted to take that jack and remove that, there's another big E-clip here for that. I find that if I just kind of move it around it, I can clear the way to get the rest of the dirt out. You'll notice I left the anti-reverse dog and spring on as well. The spring attaches over the lip of the base plate, and it comes to the back side of the dog. Okay, once that's all been cleaned, you can use a little bit of oil behind the jack. Now let's turn our attention to the yoke, which has been cleaned. We want to get a little bit of grease on the yoke. We want to note that on the yoke there's two ramps on the bottom, and they actually face out. That's very different from a lot of setups. We also have the slot for the spool, and that faces away. So put the slot for the spool so that it is going to go through the hole in the bridge here. Bring the carrier, the yoke, and the two, and set it in there just like that. If you had any questions, go back to the picture you took. I like to use the bottom of the case, because if you try to lay this down for the next step, what happens is the gear sometimes comes loose because the gear is protruding from the other side of the plate. We're going to put the yoke spring and the E-clip back on now. Put the spring over the post. I like to compress the spring, pull it down, and hold it with one finger while I grab the E-clip and get that started in the slot. And sometimes you can push these in by hand strength, sometimes you need a little assist. I'm going to use an assist from the pliers here, and then I can release the spring. That's how it belongs. We'll do that again in case you weren't paying attention, but also because, well, there's two sides here and both have to be done the same way. I'm going to take the spring and compress it, hold it with the one finger, start the E-clip, see if you can't just put it in by strength. This time I got it in by strength, I didn't need the assist. And that's what your bridge assembly looks like now. Okay, we can come back to the main gear. Here's your stack. First thing I want to do is I want to put a little bit of grease onto the post. I'm going to put this on, see if we can't, oh look at that now, right? Since we cleaned it, we got a nice easy turning one. We don't need anything to assist. Well, what you do need to do is to move this anti-reverse dog into position. So right now that's below where it belongs. You need to take something to push it up and out of the way, and then your gear sleeve can seat properly. Now it's seated, and you can see if you look inside here that that's in the right position. Okay, let's take the main gear stack now, see what we have in here. We have a little bit of dirt in the bottom of that case, so the first thing I'm going to do is just use a screwdriver to see if I can't scrape it off. There's a theme going on here, right? A lot of dirt. But again, the gearing itself, the metals in there are all structurally sound, as you would expect, as I would expect. A little bit of a cleanup with the cotton swab. We have a washer set in the back of this one that goes over the washer and the shield here. Let's inspect the teeth. We're going to pull through on that with a brush. That's going to enable me to clear the teeth in the gear. And then I want to inspect the teeth, make sure that they're all good. They are. I was kind of doing that as I was brushing, but I want to make sure that you know that is a step in the process. These are very hard drag washers here. It's almost like they're those asbestos brake washers. They were popular for a little while in pen reels. If you needed to replace these washers, I believe the Pen Jigmaster washers are an exact fit. Okay, drag washers go over. We have a 6 washer set. Just looking for the other metal one. There it is. I'm going to check to see if I have the Pen Jigmaster washers, because I don't like the look of the one of them. Okay, so the Pen Jigmaster washers are a direct replacement, so we'll continue then. I'm going to use some drag grease on these. I'm going to take the washer, put a little bit of grease onto there. I'm going to use my glove hand as a tool, spread it, and then I'm going to wipe off any excess that there is so that you can see the cross hatching in there. The 6 washer setup has 2 keyed washers. They go high and low, and they have 1 eared washer which belongs in the middle. The keyed washers hold the post. The eared washer holds the main gear, and when you clamp them all together, both are held tightly. Next one up then is the keyed washer. Here's your second drag washer. Do the same thing. Again, if you don't have excess, that's fine. After a while, you kind of get the touch where you know just how much you're putting on there. And then we'll grab that last one. We'll load that in, and we'll load the top washer. That is our drag set now. And we have 1 bell washer, which goes on the cap. So that's how to rebuild the bridge on this one. These 3 are, well, have served their purpose. All right, let's go reinstall then. It's pretty easy. We've already put the new bearing in the case. Oil that bearing up. Take our bridge and load that in. Because everything is on the bridge, you do not need to hold anything special. Just align it properly. Oops. Once you have that seated nice and tight, come on over to the other side and load those screws in. But there are 2 long ones in the bottom, 2 short ones in the top. And then I like to tighten these in opposing directions. So up top on one side, opposite side low. Come on back, opposite side high. And last one. And then when you do that, make sure that they're all tight. Sometimes there's a little bit of play left in one, so tighten those all down. And now I can move that out of the way. And give it a test right now, make sure it's functioning fine. I didn't expect anything but that. Okay, next up then we have this big collar. And we had a collar washer went. And at this point you can either put the star adjuster on or you can put the side plate onto the assembly. So let's go ahead and put the side plate into the assembly. Line these up, and there'll be a stud that you're going to feel for that'll lock all of this in place. Well, this has been a long project. I needed to take a break. For those of you that are observant, I have switched over to a black glove, and we're just in the process of finishing out putting those screws in right now. And let's review what we did. We did an awful lot with this reel. We found out that the reel was, well, it was neglected from a service standpoint, very dirty inside. The bearings were shot. The drag washers were certainly well worn, and all of those pieces and parts got removed and replaced with the service. We're just putting a couple more screws in here right now, and well, we'll do a little bit here with the final assembly. We'll give it a test. We'll see how we did. I have no doubt in my mind that this reel is going to fly because, well, that's the way Newell made them. They're treasures, they're classics, and there's a reason why they have the reputation that they do. Right, screws are in. Let's grab a collar here. And we have a washer that goes on top of that. And we have the star adjuster. Then we started out early on, if you'll recall, we did have a group of pieces that went on top of that. There's a bell washer, and there's a little washer that goes on top of the bell. The handle is next. There's a little washer that goes on top of the handle. This is where we had the first indication that there was going to be creases and salts and the like in there. And we have an E-clip that holds that gear shaft on. And do the same thing here we did with that E-clip on the yoke. We go for a little assist here with the pliers. And we have a little waterproofing washer. And we have the big cap washer. Start threading this one by hand. These are 9/16. It harkens back to the time when you actually used US threaded nuts for the work. We might want to tighten that down, make sure that our handle is seated all the way. If my hand is in the way, I'm going to apologize. Tighten it by hand, then we can finish it off with the wrench. And give it a little test. There we go. Tighten down the star adjuster. Make sure that you have a nice tight drag. Let's see if we're in free spool. So we shouldn't have the spool noise that was associated with the bad bearings. As you can see, this one's just flying. Think nothing of it. Let's go into gear. Give it a nice turn. Look at that. What a performance. Very nice. Make sure your drags are holding. They are, and then back them off. You don't want to compress them when you're not using the reel. So that's it. That's the service on the Newell It's a P454T. It's a big saltwater reel. This one's ready to go fishing again. So I hope you've enjoyed that. If you did, please like it. Again, please subscribe if you'd like to see more of these. And to all of our first responders and essential personnel, thank you for everything it is that you do to keep us safe. Your efforts truly are appreciated. And to everyone, please stay safe, stay well, stay watching as I adjust the spool a little bit. You want to take the knock out of the spool, and you have that ability with a coin or with a screwdriver to do that. Now you really got a nice turning reel that's indicative of Newell's performance. Okay, this is Dennis with Second Chance Tackle. I hope everybody is well. I thank our first responders and essential personnel for everything they do to keep us safe. And I encourage you to take your time, service your reels, keep them fishing. Have a great day.